What is going on at Chelsea? It's a simple question that we're going to dive into now. Really, really struggling. Chelsea are obviously always up and down, it feels like, in most seasons, certainly in the last few. And, they're in 10th in the league. They've been in that area before when Mourinho, obviously, the second time around, lost his job. Only 3 goals scored in the last 8 games, only 1 victory in the last 8 games as well. Although some of those have obviously been to a Man City side, which are obviously the best team in the league. But it doesn't feel right at all right now. How do you feel about Chelsea, Nubaid? Because I think with the transfer activity as well, which is a lot of noise that Graham Potter's got to deal with now, and the noise that he's had to deal with up to now, it's been tough on him, isn't it?
I think when he had a fully fit side, Chelsea went 9 games unbeaten. So I think the injuries have played a massive part in his plan. Also, he's not like an Ancelotti type manager where he comes in and he's great with every single play. He's a tactical football manager, and I think he requires certain pieces in the puzzle to work for him. And without James, without Chilwell, essentially without wing backs, he's now has to play Cucurella as an out and out left back, which I don't think Cucurella's suited to. Although he did do that kind of a job at Brighton, but I think it's very different when he do it for Chelsea. I think then on top of that, he's had players that are massively out of form. On top of that, he doesn't have a striker. On top of that, he went and got fresh trim, and he should have waited. Wait till you've won loads of games.
Give yourself a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Don't do it. Yeah. He knew, didn't he? He knew that first picture in the dugout with all the cameramen.
There's more pressure than a big signing than doing your teeth, I reckon.
He's got to stay on top of that. Yeah. Does he? Here's the thing. I think that the elephant in the room, I think, with Potter is, and it's unfair, but it's I think how a lot of people end up feeling. They're quite shallow about English managers, and I think the feeling with him, again, that people won't say, is that has he got the gravitas? Has he got the personality? Or are all of these things nonsense in a day-to-day, passing of a football manager?
Maybe that's what the haircut was about, maybe that was
maybe he's trying to add that in, maybe, I don't know. But I think we've got to talk about this because that is part of it. I think when you're the underdog and all, the hipsters like you because, you're getting the best out of a Brighton club that is actually incredibly well run, who goes and finds good players that are malleable, have good personalities themselves, are sort of hungry. You then move to Chelsea, which the bottom line with this Chelsea squad is they bring in superstars. So you've got to work with superstars, and superstars are different. And to sort of humble those kind of people, you've got to have that gravitas. We can talk about Man City. It always comes back to Man City, I know, Stephen, when I'm looking at you. But with Pep Guardiola, he has that gravitas. Does Graham Potter have it?
The best way I can put it is when you go and see City or I guess Liverpool, you find yourself looking at the bench just as much as the pitch sometimes. You say, there's Pep.
Right.
And you do that. And
bet.
you go, there's Klopp, because they have that superstar.
I do the same with Gareth Southgate.
Yeah, exactly. And then you go, there's Mourinho. There is an element of an aura that does draw you towards certain individuals. And maybe it's unfair and maybe it shouldn't matter, but there is does Graham Potter have that? I think it's a fair question right now. And will he get the reaction? To be fair, I wasn't even sure Arteta had it, and he started to prove me wrong as well. I wasn't sure he was going to be a big enough personality, and he's shown that. But there's always that question mark, isn't there, about British managers in particular, maybe since Ferguson. But in general, Potter has got a lot to prove, and he knows that, I reckon. The Chelsea fans definitely know that. The rest of the league definitely knows that, and the Chelsea players will know that too, and immediately maybe he's set back a little bit because he's trying to make them all take him seriously, which is he deserves that chance. Absolutely, he does, and he's clearly a very high quality manager. And I remember first reading about him a Guardian piece when he was managing Osteruns, and he played at Arsenal. I remember being fascinated that he had a degree in humanities and all this kind of stuff, and thinking, this guy sounds fascinating. So I've always wanted to see him do well, but all that degrees and all that background and so on, when you're trying to manage a bunch of superstars, it just goes out the window, doesn't it? Because they are bigger than you. They are. And Klopp, no one's bigger than Klopp and Guardiola at Man City or Liverpool. They're not, because they are superstars in their own right. Maybe this is nothing, but it doesn't help him, I would say, right now. It doesn't help him the fact that he isn't going to sit down in the press conference and everyone be doing that at his feet, because they don't care, with all due respect to him.
Yeah.
Also, at Chelsea, you've got Todd Bowley there. So, I feel like all the big clubs that are competing for titles, like you said about Klopp, like you said about Pep, even with Arteta, you feel like they run most of the club.
Yeah.
Whereas I think Potter is pretty much just the football manager at Chelsea. And even that at the moment isn't a job he's doing very well. So I just feel like at Brighton, I feel when they were doing scouting reports and they were sitting down, he's in the room. When they're doing transfer talk, he's in the room. I think now Todd Bowley's going, João Felix, I fancy him for a little bit. Let's just get him in and Potter, can you make it work? And I think he's got a bit of a problem in that sense.
It feels cruelist, doesn't it? Like this whole thing about personality. But I think we're not trying to dig him out. It's just it feels.
No, I think those feelings are fair, because I think that, look, he hasn't come from Barcelona where he's won, But then you could say the same about Jurgen Klopp or about Mourinho. And so sometimes, actually, despite us joking about the glow up he's had, you've got to kind of fake it till you make it a little bit sometimes. And I think, Jurgen Klopp once was just Jurgen Klopp. Like, he becomes Jurgen Klopp, if that makes any sense whatsoever. The problem he has, I think, as well, is that it's been a sort of snowball of horrible different elements. And so, like, you talk about those injuries and getting to the pitch now, because he does keep tinkering. He does keep changing the lineup. He's got a certain amount of numbers to do that. But then you look at the injuries: Brozier, Chilwell, Fofana, Reece James, Kante, Ruben Loftus-Cheek as well. All of those guys
Sterling
out.
as well now.
Sterling out, Pulisic out as well. Do you blame him for all of the changes that he's made, bringing it to the pitch now? Because it's down to him to find answers on the pitch.
The thing is, when Arteta was at Arsenal, people were saying, give him time, he needs to find his rhythm. Potter's in the same situation, but unfortunately at Chelsea. So Arsenal decided when they hired Arteta, we are going to take our time with you. You can figure out what style you want to play, and we'll buy you players to fit your style. Potter is getting the flip treatment of that, where they're going, we're going to buy you players, you build a style for them. That's not Graham Potter. And that's why I think...
that feels backwards to
me. Yeah, it does, doesn't it? It's not right.
That's like how football used to be played, when you had like big managers coming to the Premier League and you'd go, here's a load of players, go make them dance and win league titles. He's now in a very unfortunate situation where he's also got players who probably just aren't fit for his system. Hakim Ziyech, Kai Havertz, who I felt would have worked under him, I feel is not really working under him. And I think he's now got an issue where he's now got João Felix as well. I mean, 11 million loan fee, they have to pay his full wages. He's about to sign a new deal with Atletico Madrid. Like, what? It is probably the most bizarre
It's a distraction almost, isn't it, as well, I guess? Because even people like Havertz, I mean, he's not had enough time with the Potter yet. No one has, because he's still so new to that role. And there are players right now who are not performing, for Potter, that I'm sure will do in a year from now, given time, because that's just football.
Is he going to get time? That's the thing. Like, is he going to get time?
We don't know what Todd Bowley's Chelsea's going to be like yet, either, do we? It's erratic and it's emotional so far, but he could actually go, I'm going to stick with Potter for a while. We don't know that yet. We presume he won't, because Chelsea have been Chelsea, but it's a different Chelsea. It's a weirder Chelsea.
For me, I keep coming back to the word gluttony. Like, I feel like they had that transfer ban, and then they've now got, and also actually with the change in ownership, that writes off a lot of debt. And so that changes financial fair play and just gives them an ability to spend incredibly freely. So that deal with João Felix, which is, I think we can all agree, is not... He's a great player, but it's not the answer. Another player who wants the ball to feet. When you've got, Ziyech, you've got Havertz, Mount, Sterling, Pulisic, you've got to fit all those players in, and supposedly get a few youngsters and bring them in possibly as well, because you've got fans going, we're 10th, the season's over in terms of the Premier League. Let's bring in some of these players, but instead you're bringing João Felix or Enzo Fernandez when you've got Conor Gallagher on the bench getting frustrated. It does feel all over the place right now, and I think in terms of Graham Potter and him surviving all of this, the one good thing that he's got, and I've seen some people comment going, calm down, James. Like this is just like Arteta a couple of years ago. I don't think it is like Arteta a couple of years ago, because I can't see, even with Arteta, you could see what he was trying to do, but you wanted to do it quicker. And that's what's made him so great this year, is that they do it really quickly and have evolved it a little bit. With Graham Potter, I feel like he needs to be ruthless quickly, or he's the one who's gonna be the fall guy here, because as much as you've got these injuries, he needs to pick a vision and stick with it between now and the next few months, because they got some tough games coming up.
That's part of the problem, isn't it? I think, like as you said, he not only tinkers, he's not tinkering personnel, he's tinkering tactics. And I think when you watched Brighton under Potter, you knew what you were going to get. They were going to get the ball into the final third, and yes, they were going to blow their chances, but they were going to get the ball there, and you knew how they were going to play. I feel now you look at Chelsea and against City in the Cup. In the first half, they pushed on and they tried to have a go. In the second half, they sat back, almost kind of like playing as if they were playing for a 0-0. Then in the Cup, they played a completely different team, and everything was all over the place. And then, as you mentioned, the fixtures are not nice. They've got Fulham away, who are in form. They've got Palace, which is a derby. I don't know, do Chelsea fans regard that as a derby? I think they probably... It's a London...
London derbies are, like, full stop, are difficult when you're playing in those games. It's different.
Then you go Liverpool away, you got Fulham again, West Ham, and then you got the Champions League. And if I'm Potter, part of me's going, let's write off the Premier League season, let's chase that Champions League, because that will buy me time. Get me to the semi-finals, get me to the finals, and whatever happens come the end of the season and people go, you finished 11th, you finished 10th, you finished 9th, I can go, but I did get us to a Champions League final. But to get to that point, he's got to start playing football that is Graham Potter football, not just football that suits whoever.
Final question. With Graham Potter, I think, look, we're not like that on this in terms of it being reactionary and saying he's got to go this week. I don't think that's going to happen. But do you see him being the manager in January 2024?
No.
No way?
I still don't, I can't really, put my cards down with this because I don't really know what Bodie's going to be like. And he seems so eager to please. And he does that. I do wonder if he's going to be a little bit softer with Potter as well. I'm giving the players, I'll give you the time. I want to be taken seriously as a serious chairman and so on. And it's hard to say.
Felix for 11 million.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and that's what I mean.
Who's telling him to do this, man? Someone's in his ear, aren't they?
It's just him. It's just him.
Yeah.
That's why I'm saying, we don't know a lot about him, but his transfers so far tell you a little bit about him. So yeah. I don't know. I feel for Potter.
Okay, let's know. January 2024, is Potter still in the job at Chelsea? Let us know in the comments below.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.